Welcome traders, welcome to yet another live stream with me, Matt. I'm super excited to be here with you guys today. As you guys all may already know me from previous sessions, I'm a senior analyst at PrimeXBT, and I'm super excited to be here with you guys today to host a special sort of live trading session that we have post Trump's inauguration that happened yesterday. Obviously, the markets have been a bit on edge pretty much since then, and also prior to that. So it's been quite an exciting couple of days since our last live stream, and I'm super excited to be here with you guys today. I'm really looking forward to kind of deep diving a bit into, say, the technicals a bit more, looking at, say, forecasting and kind of just really trying to pick on the technical analysis side of things. I want to also potentially just dive into a couple of fundamental things that I think are quite important. I'm sure a few of you guys, joined in for yesterday's Spaces chat. So you've obviously heard a lot about, say the fundamentals. And today's idea was to kind of, take through everyone from a technical analysis point of view and kind of deep dive a bit more into the charting side of things and not really, hang on too much about, say, the fundamentals. So really excited to be here with you guys. And I'm looking forward to kind of diving into a couple of assets with you. And then obviously trying to showcase a bit of the platform and how you can use, these sort of opportunities to your advantage going forward. So I think, just quick little rundown from the economic calendar side of things. Today is quite a peaceful day, if you want to call it that. We've got some CAD news coming out later today. That's going to be their core CPI inflation data results. So I think off the back of yesterday's announcement that, Trump is going to obviously, or he has signed off on some executive orders, and some of those were around, both Canada being, included in that tariff policy that he was potentially mentioning. So yeah, that's been quite an interesting one to keep your eyes out on. USD CAD has obviously been shooting pretty much since then. We've seen a lot of volatility there, and I kind of suspect that there will be some more volatility to the back end of this afternoon, where we obviously have some inflation data results coming out for the CAD itself. Now, remember, we also have coming out on Friday the Bank of Japan's interest rate decision that's coming out. Now, there actually hasn't been much in terms of forecasting. They've got currently marked out that it's going to be a tentative data release. So that normally means that we're not really sure until the day of that news announcement if the Bank of Japan is going to potentially hike interest rates or whatever they may choose to do. So obviously that's going to be quite an important fundamental news to kind of keep your eyes out on. And I say that because we obviously had, the Bank of Japan hike interest rates back in August last year for the first time in many years. And, we saw the carry trade unravel. We saw, pretty much a bloodbath across all markets during that time as well. So I'm very curious to see to what extent the markets are taking into consideration this data point that's coming out on Friday. Last time it was a bit of a shock to the system. So I do think to some degree, traders and analysts and institutions are obviously keeping this in the back of their mind, and they are aware that there may be potentially some interest rate hikes. So obviously that gives you the option to then price in this kind of data point later out on Friday. So let's see what happens then. There's a bit of Euro news coming out as well. Then we've got the flash manufacturing PMI data results for both French, Germany and the Great British Pound. So that's going to be quite an interesting sort of back end to the week. Obviously we've had Trump obviously have his inauguration yesterday, and the markets are obviously a bit on edge pretty much pre that data release or pre that announcement, and then obviously him being sworn in. So he's obviously already gone through with a couple of executive orders that I think quite interesting to dive into a bit, and also potentially see what opportunities we can potentially get from it. So I'm going to hop over to the technical side of things now. My plan for today is pretty much to go through a couple of assets, so namely the dollar index, euro dollar, gold, S&P 500, Bitcoin, and potentially looking into some trade ideas on Solana and Ethereum. Now, I personally am kind of very interested from the crypto side of things, what potentially is going to happen, because obviously Trump, had mentioned in his run-up to becoming president that he was going to be very pro cryptocurrency. There was a lot of legislation and things he was looking to potentially bring in, under his term now. And I think the market is a bit bit wary at the moment. I think a lot of people were anticipating some sort of, announcement or some sort of, recognition from the crypto space in his executive orders and in his potential speech or any speech that he did yesterday. And, for the most time right now, we actually haven't seen much news or sort of reaction from Trump with regards to those, decisions he wanted to bring in. And I don't necessarily think that it means that we need to panic, that he's not going to necessarily do something that he potentially might have promised on. I think, we've seen the likes of him, launching his own meme coin, late Friday afternoon last week, and then, his son's also following suit, really pushing the crypto space. It's going to be quite interesting to see if he does sort of default on what he kind of said he was going to do, and if potentially, he can actually just go ahead with the stuff that he has said. I think personally, obviously, the market is on, high anticipation from him kind of, being a lot like very pro crypto. So we've obviously seen the market run over the weekend really strongly, especially from like last week Monday onwards, really strongly into sort of new positions and new highs. We saw both Ripple and Solana reaching new all-time highs last week. So it's been quite an interesting week. I think we've already seen a lot of, anticipation and optimism around that. So, it's going to be key to kind of track and trace what he does do from here on out, especially with regards to the crypto side of things. I think a lot of the crypto moves that we've seen over the last couple of weeks have been heavily based on, speculation that he's going to bring in all of these, regulatory changes, as well as being really pro crypto, etc. So I think to some degree, we need to just be wary of potential sort of defaults on what he's promised. But I also want to be a little bit optimistic and say that, he's going to kind of maybe spread things out. He's not necessarily going to go straight off the bat and pretty much go and do everything that he said he wanted to do. I think he's going to kind of stage it in different phases. And I think that specifically because of last week and how we had already seen such a massive sort of increase in the crypto space over that last week, running into, say, his inauguration, I do think there might have been some words said to him to potentially, tone it down a bit or keep it, a bit under wraps. I do think that there is obviously a high risk from, I don't want to say market manipulation point of view, but I definitely do think to some degree he is having a major impact on the markets at the moment. And, everything he says and does right now is obviously impacting it in a very volatile way. So there might be just a bit of, sort of relaxation over the next couple of weeks or so in terms of, the way in which he goes about bringing out, executive orders from a cryptocurrency perspective. And I think that's good for us in the crypto space. I think we want to see, things really bringing or being bought in at a slower pace. We don't want to really see these false moves, if you want to call them, to the upside, and then quickly retracing and pretty much losing half of the move after a couple of days. Like, that's not really good for the space. We want to see more staggered growth over a longer period, and I think considering the time we are currently finding ourselves right now, especially from a cyclical point of view, we don't want to potentially run into, say, tops a bit ahead of time. And I think it's good for us that we have them potentially bringing out these news announcements a bit slower and more gradual, because I think even just pretty much post him winning the election last year in November, we've seen some tremendous moves to the upside that potentially could result in some shorter term pullbacks. So I think that's pretty much what I'm looking at from a fundamental perspective. I think it's going to be quite interesting to see what he says. But yeah, let's dive into a couple of the technicals. This is pretty much the dollar index right here. That's what I've got kind of marked up on my charts right now. And if we just had to pop up to the weekly time frame, we can see over here that price has pretty much been, also post, say, Trump winning elections, last year in November, we saw a pretty aggressive move on the dollar index, pretty much from the lows of around 103 all the way into the highs of 110. And that move has been quite aggressive. I do think that we are potentially due a minor pullback on the dollar index, and I think we're already starting to see that a bit now. And if we have a look here, you can pretty much see we've kind of bumped our heads into this sort of supply region sitting above here. So obviously ranging between 108 and a high of 114,500. And that pretty much looks like we've kind of just swept this high over here. And, you know, we've kind of bumped our heads into the supply zone over here. And we potentially, you know, looking for some shorter term pullbacks. So I would be quite curious to see how price reacts out of this support level over here. This will be my most immediate low, sitting at around 105,500. And I would be interested to see if we can, you know, if we're going to continue this momentum and potentially snap that area and look for something like that. Obviously, fundamentally based or fundamentally wise, you know, I do believe that Trump is obviously going to push the dollar index higher to some degree. But I think in the shorter term, we might see some pullbacks. If we do get those pullbacks, this is what I would be wary of. So the structure point breaking over here. And then we'd obviously look for some potential more downside movement from there. With that being said, obviously we've made this new leg higher here. So if I had to mark this out over here, you can pretty much see that we've made this new high over here at around 110. So, you know, we could be just seeing some pullbacks into some discounted areas around this 50% level on the Fibonacci tool. That'll give me around 105 on the dollar index, which kind of would line up with the sweep over here. And I think that could be quite interesting because we could see this like fake out, right? You know, get some sort of mitigation of that daily 50 MA, and then we could potentially push higher, something like that. So that's my kind of thoughts currently on the dollar index. I think we have the potential to go either way currently, and I'm going to be more interested to see if, you know, this pullback we're seeing now is going to be sustained, and if we can potentially hold back down into areas lower, or if we start to kind of pop up back into some, you know, more aggressive price movement. But yeah, you can pretty much see that we were in this range from about the 10th of July 2023, and we found ourselves pretty much in this box over here for quite some time. We've then broke out of it, and now we seem to be kind of, you know, having a shorter pullback. Now, how does the dollar index correlate to euro dollar? If you have a look here now, you can pretty much see something similar. So if I had to just clear these charts quickly, and let me bring back euro dollar for you quick. So if I had to just get rid of all these markups and drawings over here and just look at this from a blank canvas perspective, you know, if we had to look here, this area kind of aligns with our supply area that we are in on the dollar index. So if this was my demand area sitting below, it would look something like that. And you can see that we've also pretty much just tapped into this area. And, you know, you can see here how we were pretty much also ranging in this accumulation zone for quite some time. So, you know, this could be potentially a fake out. A really cool technique that I quite like to use is the accumulation, manipulation, and distribution model. So this would be my accumulation over here. This would be my manipulation. And then something like this would be my potential distribution. So the model would look something like that. And basically what happens there is you get price action doing something like this. If I had to draw it out for you, you range, okay, and then you manipulate, and then you start to kind of trade back to the upside again, right? So that potentially could be playing out right now on euro dollar. And if we had to look at this from a discount perspective, you can also see here how we actually are reacting out of this demand zone below this 50% level too. So I'm not necessarily saying that the dollar index is going to completely push higher into, say, new regions of like 1.14 or whatever it may be, but I wouldn't be surprised if we did see some shorter pullback or shorter term pullbacks on the euro dollar. And you know, there again, this aligns perfectly with the dollar index. If we were to find some momentum back to the upside, it would look something like this. That's what I'd be really interested in. This would be my most immediate sort of low, and that would kind of give me a confirmed structure break. But then again, you know, we have also just printed this momentum level back down like that. So if price action, let's say for example, let's say price action starts to trade higher, we could be potentially just mitigating something here in the rebalancing zone within this 50% level here on the Fibonacci tool. And that kind of also lines up with the dollar index. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do see a pullback on euro dollar. But that being said, we could also just be pulling back now to then potentially just continue rolling over to the downside. So I do think dollar index will be a bit stronger under Trump's term. I'm just not sure to what extent we're going to see that, or when we're going to see that strength. But those are the sort of outcomes I would be looking for. So either pretty much looking for a continuation to the downside, or we're getting this structure break over here. And we are starting to see price potentially reclaim some highs. And then, you know, we could potentially then start to see this continuation back to the downside thereafter. So that's what I'll be looking at on the euro dollar. Right now, it's still very unclear as to, you know, whether we're going to be just pulling back in the shorter term, or if we actually are going to continue to trade higher or lower. Gold has been another interesting one. So gold is quite an interesting asset to trade. I still think to some degree there is a bit of uncertainty in, say, from a political / global perspective, and you know, we do potentially start to see the thing, commodities such as gold, you know, following, you know, potential presidential elections and the way in which they run. So right now on gold, yeah, I would be pretty interested to see if we could break above this level over here. So this would be my all-time high, sitting at around just below $2,800. And basically what I would want to see is some sort of push to the upside. You know, I've mentioned this in the previous streams. I'd want to see some sort of continuation to the upside. That would give me confidence that this would then be a confirmed structure break. So let's say, for example, we could get something up here in the $3,000 zone. And then basically what I would be looking for is some sort of pullback and then continuation higher, right? So I've showed you guys this model in the past before. That kind of would be something I'd be interested to see on gold. So for me personally, I'm going to wait for a confirmed structure break above this high at around 2,800. And then I would like to see some continuation to the upside, potential retracement back into that zone, and then back to the highs. So that is what I would be interested on, and then this would obviously then form part of your demand zone, and that kind of obviously then lines up with this resistance area too. So let's say, for example, you get a break above 2.8, then this would be my demand zone that I'd be interested in. Why? We swept this liquidity over here. We then had some sort of V-shaped recovery, okay? And that would be forming something like this. And then, you know, price is kind of then shifting slowly back to the upside. And then I would like to see some sort of continuation back when we hit this area over here. I'm going to show you Solana. It's a great example of what I'm trying to actually show you here. And then look for a continuation to the upside. So basically on gold, I'm looking for a break above and a retracement, and then some sort of continuation. And then what I'll do is I'll look to potentially add some long positions from here, stop loss below here, and then wherever we're going from there. So continuation back to the upside. So 2 to 1 is perfect in scenarios like this. And yeah, that's pretty much in a nutshell what I'd look for. Something on gold. So, you know, what I tend to do in scenarios like this, I'll just set an alert and I will say crossing up when price crosses above this area. I'll get alert from my trading view, and then I will pretty much wait to see, you know, how big this move is to the upside, and then kind of gauge with my Fibonacci tool to see how I can potentially find a discounted purchase, and then potentially look for a trade back to the upside. So that's what I'm looking at on gold. I'm going to keep that posted there. I will obviously update you guys, you know, throughout the live streams, and these are quite interesting assets that we can track and trace together. Same with the S&P 500. The S&P 500, I was actually looking for something down here in this demand zone at around between 5-7. Obviously, they would have lined up perfectly with this nice ascending trend line that we have from the low back in October 2023. And yeah, I was kind of looking for something like this, potentially to retest that daily 50 MA, which lines up with this demand zone, and then look for a continuation back to the upside. And yeah, obviously we haven't got that, unfortunately. We've actually pretty much just turboed back to the upside. Now we're trading just below $6,000, and this is on the weekly time frame. So if we had to drop down on the daily, you can pretty much see that since last week, Monday, we've pretty much seen quite a decent move to the upside on the S&P 500. I think we've literally traded from a low, yeah, almost 4-5%. So I'm gonna wait a bit still on this. It's not ideal for me to potentially take an entry here, but that being said, I'm not gonna shy away from a potential entry if we can break above this zone over here. So if we can break all-time highs over here, then I'll look for a continuation trade. So it'll look something like that. Now, that would be pretty much ideal. And the reason why I'd be keen on this is that because if I had to then just say remove these drawings over here, basically what would be happening here is that we're just moving out of this internal demand zone over here, which you can kind of see by pretty much that high over there. We swept this low, moving higher over here. And then what I would be looking for is a break above this zone here. So if I had to draw this out for you a bit better, remember this is on the weekly time frame, so this is quite a higher time frame. But basically what I would be looking for is some sort of break above that red line. This would be my sweep over here. Okay, and then we would use this area here. So this would now be my new demand zone, sitting like this. Okay, might not look pretty right now, but that would be valid for me. And then basically what you're looking to do is something like this. So we want to see a move to the upside that looks something like that. So we want to see price kind of trade higher. Maybe it'll look something like this. And then what I would be looking for is some shorter term pullback into this area and then continuation. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. So that would then be my low. Let's say my high was, say, sitting at around here, just for tutorial purposes. Then what I would want to do is have an entry like this. Okay. And then I would want to potentially play that swing. So that's pretty much in a nutshell what I'd be looking for in the S&P 500. Again, confirmed structure break to the upside would be above $6,100 over here. That means you would trade into fresh new all-time highs. This would be then my, protected low over here, and then you would be able to, this is what I would want to pretty much see, some sort of pullback down into this 6,100 or wherever we're sitting in terms of the 50% level of this Fibonacci tool. And then I would like to enter some leverage positions back to the upside. So that's pretty much what I'm looking at on the S&P 500. I'll actually bring up NASDAQ quickly, and I'll show you how on NASDAQ we pretty much had something similar. And I think this was on the daily time frame. Yes. Cool. So if I quickly just remove these drawings, basically, if you have a look over here, you can see here, this was last year around the time that Trump actually won the election. So basically what I was trying, and I actually broke this down with you guys on the live stream in the past, and you can go look back. I think it was around the weekly stream, probably around the 6th or the 7th of November. But basically what I'm trying to kind of explain, and what I like to trade, is these really sort of big confirmation areas, if that makes sense. So if we have a previous all-time high, which was pretty much sitting here at around 20,000, that's quite a psychological level for me in terms of, you know, price action ability. So if we can break through that, yeah, you can see we had a clean structure break to the upside. We had almost 1, 2, 3, 5 days worth of bullish momentum to the upside. We broke above this high at around 20,600. We made a fresh new high. So if I just quickly go back in time, we had a fresh high at around 21,000. And then basically what I was trying to explain at the time was this would be my confirmed structure break over here. This would be my now demand zone over here. Okay, let me just quickly change that. So this would be my confirmed break of structure. A momentum shift to the upside. You can see we swept this low over here. That low was swept at around 20,000 or so. Then basically what I was interested in was a retest of this area with a entry above 20,500, stop loss below that low, and then trading back to the upside. And then if you have a look here, you can pretty much see how price action came in and we continued to the upside thereafter. So that is pretty much in a nutshell what I was trying to explain from a execution perspective. I would be trading this to a 2-to-1, and that's what my trade example would have looked like. Excuse me. So that's basically in a nutshell what I like to trade. I like to trade those confirmation areas outside of that sort of manipulation zone, and then pretty much coming back and retesting it and then continue to the upside. So if we have a look at Bitcoin, for example, this is quite an interesting one. I did break this down with you guys last week in the live stream. I said that we were holding in the support zone at around $90,000 to around $92,000. And I did mention that I was potentially aware of, you know, potentially some lower prices or pricing, but at the same time, I was also not opposed to higher pricing if we were to hold in this lower sort of internal support region between 92,000 and 90,000, which we did. We managed to then break above this area over here, which was this small internal descending trend line. And then we've kind of found ourselves bumping heads back into this resistance area where we made all-time highs, new all-time highs yesterday around 109. Okay, so again, yes, very messy. We could just be consolidating in this region, like I did mention in the previous sort of stream. We could just be finding ourselves, you know, taking the high, taking the low, and then potentially going from there. So for me personally, I'm not really too interested in any BTC positions right now. I would like to see a bit of confirmation to the upside. That could look something like this, where we get a potential confirmed break above, potential retest, and then something like that. That would actually be really interesting for me personally, because I would then be interested to see how price action would hold out of, say, this demand zone here, and obviously then you would have your sort of lower demand zone sitting down here somewhere. Yeah, and those would be then areas I would like to see actually hold as we continue to potentially push to the upside. That's what I'd be interested on BTC right now. It's kind of rejected this all-time high over here. We haven't really got a close above, so I'm still waiting for a close above. You know, potentially we could see some positivity or some sort of, you know, greater sentiment from, say, you know, Trump's side that could really push us into, say, new price discovery regions, and that is what I'd be interested in on BTC. Now, I did say I wanted to show you guys Solana because that is actually been something I've been quite interested in, and I'll show you what I have been looking at. So if we quickly change time frames, I'll keep us on the daily. That should actually help. But if we have a look here on the daily, we rejected this all-time high at around $260, and then we obviously came back down here. Now, I did mention that I was quite interested to see how price would react when we started to rebalance at this 50% level, which was sitting at around $185. And you can pretty much see that once we tapped our heads into this area, which was pretty much over here, we came into it once, moved away, we then ran this low, and now we pushed the upside. So for me, that's really key. I like, unfortunately we didn't get a close above all-time highs, but that's okay, that's fine. I'm not too stressed about that right now. What I'd be interested in from a potential play would be something like this. So if you have a look here, this would have been my sort of internal demand zone, which we then held and pushed higher. So now if we have a look at this from a technical perspective, I would now be interested to see if we can hold in this potential area over here. So if you have a look here, you can see how price swept. So this was our low over here at around $175. Okay, and you can pretty much see how we came and we swept that low, which is what I was talking to you guys on the stream last week about. And I said I would only be interested to see potential long positions if we can get a break above here, which we have. So now it's pretty much a case of just executing on the idea. So this would be my demand zone, my new fresh demand zone, sitting something like this. Okay, and if I have a look at this, this would be my low, that would be my high. And if you have a look on the Fibonacci tool, right, so you can actually already see we've tapped into discount over here at around 230, and we've already kind of rejected it slash moved away from it. But what I would be potentially looking for now is maybe price to consolidate around here for a bit, and then take this low or a low and then move to the upside. So that's what I'll be looking for, something like this on Solana. And what I will be potentially doing is actually just setting some buy limits just below here, stop loss at around 170, 169, and then trying to trade it to, or trading a 2-to-1 back to the upside. That's pretty much what I'm looking at on Solana right now. So how could you execute something like this on our platform? Super easy, really easy to do. I will then pretty much show you quickly now. So this is on Solana. So if you guys have not already got an account, you can do so by going through our main PrimeXBT landing page. You'll then obviously be able to find the necessary information to sign up your account and get verified. I've already got a verified account here. But yeah, once you've obviously made the necessary deposit into your account, it will sit something like this, and then you'll need to transfer. So for example, I want to trade out of my crypto futures platform right now. What I'll do is I will then need to transfer money from my wallet account and into my crypto futures account. I'll then choose the amount. Let's say I just want to confirm 100 euro, and then we'll tell you your transfer is complete. I then go to my crypto futures platform, and here I will be able to see my terminal, right? So it looks something like this. And let me just move this up a bit so you guys can see a bit better. But basically, in a nutshell, you'll be able to see all your positions, your orders, your fills, history, etc., statistics, whatever it may be. And yeah, if you want to obviously go and look for various assets, you can simply click on the actual asset logo. So for example, I want to trade Solana. I'll then go find Solana and it'll look something like this. You can already see here how we have pretty much the built-in trading view function. So the charts look very much the same. And basically what I'm looking for on Solana is a potential retracement into this zone over here. And if I had to now pinpoint a potential buy entry, I would want to potentially have some buy limits at around quarter 223, stop loss below this low over here, and then potentially trading back to the upside. So what I'd need to do is I'd need to select where next to where it says market, you can choose limit. Now, let's say, for example, I would like to enter into, say, 10 futures contracts of Solana at a price of 223. I then need to change that price. Okay, I can change my margin type from cross to isolated, and you can simply then obviously drag and drop depending on the leverage type. So let's say, for example, I'd like to just keep this on maybe 2x. I need to then obviously select the buy side because I'm looking to place a buy order, and then I simply just go click place buy order and confirm. And now you'll be able to see on the red line, or just above the red line where it says 10 buy limit, that pretty much now is my order entry, right? And my order will be sitting underneath where it says orders, and you can pretty much scroll through there where you'll be able to see your position, the asset that you've obviously entered into, you know, the sort of purchasing type. So in this scenario, I'm in the limit buy side. I've chosen 10 futures contracts at a price of 223. And yeah, if you want to obviously get out of this position or modify it, you can either just drag and drop this, or you can click on where it says modify and then go confirm, or you can click on this exit button here to cancel the order, and then you'll be done. So that is pretty much in a nutshell how you can go around on our platform. This is just a quick tutorial from a future side of things, how you can potentially execute a position on Solana. And yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed today's sort of technical analysis deep dive. Let's see what Trump has to say over the next sort of week or so. Let's see what sort of you know, decisions he kind of brings out to the public, and let's obviously see how the markets react to that. So I'll obviously keep you guys posted daily in the Telegram group with anything that I see that I think is really important that you guys should keep your eyes out on. And then obviously weekly we have these live streams to kind of catch up and recap pretty much what has happened in the markets over the last week or so. So I hope you guys enjoyed this week's sort of special Trump inauguration post trading analysis session. I hope you guys have learned something from it, and I'll catch you guys in the next week's one. Thank you.